Imagine coming to a foreign country and farming most of your life, then becoming the President of the United States of America. I, Martin Van Buren, had this happen to me, and I proved my rank. I achieved quality education. I went to college, and I worked my way, becoming the 8th President of the United States. I persevered to becoming the most accomplishing president in American history. I had an easy childhood, but I always continued working because Daddy needed help. I was born December 5th, 1782, in Kinderhook, New York. I was always called Little Matt, though, because I was always under average size. Don't judge people. And because there wasn't much to do, my hobbies were farming and tending to my father's tavern. My father, Abraham Van Buren, was always busy, even before he had children. He traveled to America and met Maria in college. Later, he opened a farm and tavern. Maria Van Buren, my mother, was always a stay-at-home mom with 7 children. She gave birth to 3 children with another man, but sadly became a widow. Then she started college. She met Abraham and later had 4 more children, which one of them happened to be me. I always adored learning, but didn't always have a chance. Whenever I could, I would run to a one-room schoolhouse. Later, my father put me in a second-hand school until I was 14 years old. But later, I apprenticed a lawyer. For me, being a legislator was not easy, at least when I was legislator. When I was racing to become legislator, I raced against the most powerful family in New York. But I luckily won, and with my power, I upgraded the soldiers, but unfortunately the upgrade didn't help. The Capitol and Executive Mansion was burned, so I had to live at my own house. I achieved a lot as a part of the Senate. I became senator in 1821 and amended the state constitution. My children had grown old enough to take care of themselves, so I moved to Washington to run for a higher rank. My wife was happy to be with me, but I wasn't always there with her. Hannah Hose Van Buren married in February 21, 1807, and we had 4 children. But sadly, she died of tuberculosis. I always struggled with my children, but, children politics don't mix. My children, Abraham, John, Martin Jr., and Smith, were all cared for by their mother until she died. I struggled to care for them, but when they were old enough, I moved out and they took care of themselves. I tried 3 elections, and I won the 3rd time. In my 1832 campaign, I was racing against Andrew Jackson. Jackson was very popular at the time, so he won, but I ran for vice president and won. Later, in my 1836 campaign, Jackson helped me and was still very popular, which helped with votes, and won with an extra 170 votes. My 1837 inauguration in Washington, D.C. was one of the best moments of my life. In the White House, I had it almost as easy as my childhood. My sons worked for me because they were into politics, so they filed things and helped with papers. While I was in the White House, I renovated every room in the White House. In addition, Angelica Singleton married one of my sons, meaning she could host parties and potlucks at the White House. Ooh, ooh. I accomplished many things as a president. but only a couple big things. I helped things like banks were failing, so I made a state treasury for each state, and nobody lost money. Also, British Canadians were attacking, so I bordered Canada with soldiers, ending the turmoil. I had a few failures here and there, but who doesn't? The ship SS Caroline was burned and sent down Niagara Falls by those silly British Canadians. I also lost the following presidential election. As I grew older, I started to lay back and do things I enjoyed. I toured the country to the south and west. I watched the tension between the north and south. Lastly, I also supported Abraham Lincoln until I died. Sadly, I died. But I had lived a long life. I died in Lindenwold, Europe on July 24th, 1862. I was 79 years old and was buried next to my wife and parents. During my retirement, I enjoyed tending to my potato and turnip field and fishing. I also like to spend time with my family and old friends. I also did a couple more political things after presidency. I did 4 more years of politics, and I even got to help Abraham Lincoln with his campaign. I tried accomplishing more than any president in American history. Simply just entering office to my exit of office was a lot to learn about. We learned about my entire life, and I proved that. As you can see, Martin Van Buren, our 8th president, lived to the fullest. Eee.